So my story is called The Trials and Tribulations of Trying to Conceive as an LGBT Woman. There's lots of T's in that title. My wife and I met on another T, Tinder. I'd love to say we both swiped right and the rest is history, but history has a lot of twists and turns and throws a lot of unexpected surprises at you. In May 2015, I sent a cautious hi to my now wife on the popular dating app Tinder. That short text quickly developed into me, the most unathletic person on earth, learning about her career as a gymnastics coach, her semi-successful football career, and her love of traveling to America for skiing. Our first week of texting led to another 3 weeks of long essays and late night conversations while she visited friends in America. We were both just out of rough relationships, hoping to dip our toe gently back into the dating pool. Thanks to the help of some serious therapy, I'd just left an incredibly abusive relationship 3 months prior, and my wife had equally just left her relationship in a bad way 2 years before. Because of this, we were totally honest on our first date. We talked about how we wanted to just go with the flow and probably only see each other once or twice. We talked about our exes, how she'd never been with a girl before, and how we didn't see a point in a relationship unless we intended to marry the person and have kids. How very old fashioned of us. Yet, despite an incredibly unlucky few years, complete with homophobic parents and serious health issues, we never could quite find a way to live without each other. And just like we talked about on our first date, in 2017, we started the process of researching how two women could have a baby. We went into this process as well researched as we could, but there wasn't much information out there. We didn't need medication, we didn't need IVF, we just needed the equivalent of a natural insemination while being on the right side of the law and ensuring that we would both be considered the legal parents of our child. The first place our research brought us to was an incredible website called Pride Angel. Yes, it was an American website, but it was a great starting point. It was from there that we found out the best way to secure both our names on the birth certificate was to get married. This would avoid a complicated legal battle with one of us having to adopt the other's child, as well as a possible legal battle with the sperm donor. So we started there. With equal marriage being illegal in Northern Ireland at the time, we planned a civil partnership in just 6 months. After that, we quickly found out that the free go of fertility treatment on NHS only applied if you'd tried naturally, i.e. straight sex, for 2 years, or if you had 12 rounds of fertility treatment through a registered clinic. We worked out that 12 rounds of fertility treatment would cost us roughly £20,000, which there was no way we could afford. So that was the NHS out of the question. So we then went to an open day for the only private fertility clinic in Northern Ireland, GCRM Belfast. The open day was filled with older heterosexual couples, so all the information was aimed at heterosexual couples looking for surgery, intervention to create a child. We found out through this open day that the closest they could do to unmedicated conception was IUI, or intrauterine insemination. This procedure required a blood test to check that the LH hormone had risen enough to indicate egg release. You're then given a date to which they think you'll ovulate. On ovulation day, you turn up to the clinic, they put a tube up inside you, to which defrosted sperm is delivered all the way from the EU and will be injected and then left to its own devices to find the egg. 2 weeks later, you do a pregnancy test, and if it's negative, you start the process all over again. The procedure itself only takes around 15 minutes, but it costs £2,000 a pop. The requirement of EU donor sperm meant we would have to pay for shipping, refrigeration, and storage for literally the smallest vial of sperm on earth, and this all adds up, unfortunately. Even the sample pricing on the open day didn't account for the extra cost of donor sperm, which, despite many gay couples probably going through the exact same process. After all this research, we thought we didn't have many other options. We didn't know anyone willing to donate to us at home or in the clinic, and we were scared by the legality of the whole process. We wanted to make sure 100% that we would have full legal parenthood over the child no matter what. So we saved up and went through the clinical process, feeling like we didn't really have many other options with so little guidance available online. It took us a full year to go through the process of just 3 IUI attempts. Each time the clinic insisted on £200 consultations, £200 scans, and a load of other hidden costs that meant we would have to save longer and harder in between each go. On the third time, we sat with a nurse who explained to my wife that she had unexplained infertility, which is basically another way of saying they can't find an answer as to why the process isn't working. She was recommended IVF, which would involve shelling out another £9,000 on top of the £8,000 we had already spent if we wanted to continue. We had a horrible experience with this clinic anyway. Aside from it feeling like a general conveyor belt, we also had doctors arguing with us down the phone about appointment dates they mixed up and a lot of other communication issues. So we were very eager to search for other options. Thanks to the miracle that is the internet, in February 2020, we found a new donor willing to donate to us for free. Without the additional financial stress of purchasing a limited amount of donor sperm, we were finally able to relax a little bit and decided to give the clinic one last go. Lo and behold, on the first try, my wife got pregnant with our baby boy, who we nicknamed Mango because that was one of the fruit size comparisons on our baby app. Baby is the size of a mango this week. We were so excited. After almost 2 years of trying and so many issues with the clinic, this felt like a miracle. We reached the 12-week scan, and even though I wasn't allowed into the hospital with my partner due to the COVID restrictions at the time, my wife was assured that we had a healthy baby, perfectly sized with a strong heartbeat. She had a few slight cramps around week 8, but was told by the midwife that this was just growing pains, and as long as she wasn't bleeding, this was fine. Fast forward 4 weeks later, and my wife gets extremely strong cramps, so she goes upstairs and gets ready for bed. While changing and talking to me, a drop of pink blood fell onto the floor. Our hearts sank as we knew what was coming. Our notorious bad luck streak had struck again. My wife, alone again due to COVID restrictions, walked into the hospital. She hadn't bled anymore and her cramps had gone away, so she wasn't a priority with the nurses that night. She watched several women with far worse bleeds walk in and walk out of the wards, pleased that their baby was fine. Then her turn came. The nurse immediately said, "Oh, there's baby's heartbeat, see?" To which my wife said, "No, not really, but if you can see, that's okay." Then the nurse left to get the doctor to double check. After poking and prodding for a good 20 minutes, the doctor explained he couldn't find a heartbeat and baby was only measuring around 13 weeks instead of 16. It was at this point my wife was allowed to ring me to tell me I could come into the hospital. I've never heard so much pain in her voice in my life, and I never hope to hear that again. It didn't really hit me at the time. I just went through the motions, feeling like it wasn't real. The next day, we went back to the doctor to take what was essentially an abortion pill, as baby had been dead inside her for 3 weeks and showed no real sign of wanting to come out. Within 24 hours, my wife's water fully broke, and we drove back to the hospital to give birth to a tiny 7-centimetre baby. The next morning, we were asked to name him. We didn't have a name, so we called him the nickname of our bump, Mango. The nurses were incredible to us, allowing us to stay in a private room in the hospital as long as we wanted, making sure we had enough to eat, and even managing to make us laugh during the worst night of our lives. They gave us a little memory box with a yellow, mango-coloured knitted blanket and 2 teddies. One for us and one for Mango, from a wonderful charity called Sands. We then went home to grieve. On the 9th of December, the day which would have been Mango's due date, we decided to celebrate his life by converting our civil partnership to a marriage, turning what would have been a day of mourning into a happy day that it should have been. So yes, life really has brought us with some unexpected twists and turns, but we've learned a lot about ourselves and the very flawed fertility system. I really hope in the future that I can be a resource that I never had to couples trying for a baby. Thank you.